Hey, today I have the meta of Recon Rumble for you guys. So let's go. Recon Rumble 2024. Recon Rumble it's the Snafu guys in America that hosts this every year, and the pictures here, by the way, are from last year, and it's a Recon style event tournament, and because it's this early in V3, it's really interesting to see what the meta is going in here. What are people thinking? What do they think is good in these parameters? So let's go and check out what we have for you today. First, I'm going to talk about the pack, the parameters of what's going to happen. Then I'll reflect on that, what I expected before reading the lists, because I got all the lists for this. What I expected to happen, what did and did not pan out. Then we're going to talk about what nations people are taking, how many order dice they're taking, and then I have a few extra main takeaways that I think we can sort of start seeing a meta forming around a little bit. Right. So let's go. Recon Rumble 24 is an 850 point game. It's got 3 games. So 850 points is actually kind of high for a Recon style event. I think points have gone up here in V3, and I think perhaps so has order dice as well, but we shall see. 3 games, you can bring 0 to 2 rifle platoons, 0 to 1 armor platoon, and I put armored in quotation mark here because the vehicles in it has to have recce because it's Recon, right? And 0 to 1 Recon platoons, recce platoons. You're not allowed to take any forward artillery observers, and all generic reinforced units from version 2 are allowed. So if they had the designation generic reinforced allowed, then you can use it here. And if you can't find the new points cost for it, use the old one. So that's a massive hurdle to get across, and it's going to be hell to check all the lists, but that's what they're doing. So what do I expect from that? I expect to see a lot of good AT, anti-tank rifles, autocannons, and once we get into the lists, I did see some of that, but not nearly as much as I thought I would. I also expected to see a lot of HMGs, which again, not nearly as common as I thought. And that mainly is due to HMGs mostly being a thing that Americans can take. And there aren't that many Americans here, which again is surprising for an American event. People typically run, in the US, they often run Americans, so, but not here. I also expected to see loads of survivable infantry, scouts, Soviet scouts, veterans, and there is some of that, but not nearly as much as I thought. There's a lot more regulars than I thought there would be. A lot more regular officers as well than I thought there would be. So that's also different from my expectations. Of course, there are very, very, very few inexperienced units in this setup here. Inexperienced units really have suffered in version 3, and I think you really need to know what you're doing with inexperienced if you want to field them in version 3, but you can, but you really have to have a plan. I also expected, as I said, to see a lot of infiltrators, especially the Soviet scouts, and they are nowhere to be seen, which was a surprise to me, because infiltrators are really, really survivable. But I guess with Snafu, with you guys fiddling a bit with the force organization chart, maybe that does change up what you can and cannot take. And of course, if you're only in rifle platoons and recce platoons, infiltrators, maybe not that many. And then, of course, I expected to see hordes of armored cars. If I was going to this event, I would run at least 5 cars, at least 5 armored cars, and very few people are doing that. So we shall see what's good and what's not. What they're actually taking is that they're taking Germany. Germany is back. Out of 20 players, almost half, 9 players are picking German lists. There's 3 Brits, 2 Americans, and 2 Soviets. So the Brits and the Soviets and the Americans have really gone down in numbers here. Really gone down, whereas Germany was always popular, but it was never the choice where you thought, well, this is being chosen because people want to bring Germany because they want to win. No. It was the choice that people took because they wanted to feel their German army. Now, you can tell many of these German armies are designed. They want to win. They're playing to win, which is really cool. Then there are 4 people who didn't take one of the big ones. So we have one from the Netherlands. Really interesting list, by the way. We have one Finnish list as well. We have one Polish list and an Italian one. That is the nations. What about people's order dice? Now, as I said, I expect the... no, I didn't say that, did I? But I'm seeing the dice count go up in version 3, both because the points cost, the points are going up from many of the V3 tournaments. It used to be 1,000 points all the time, right? Now I'm seeing 1,100, 1,250. So that boosts the order dice count. But I'm also seeing that for the same amount of points that you got in version 3, you can now really spam out small units, which means that the order dice count is going up across the board. And that is both in a European context and in an American context, and I think so in an Australian and African context. I see order dice counts going up all around. For this event, the order dice are between 8 and 13. 8 is going to struggle here. It is definitely going to struggle. Against 13, wow, that is going to be bad. The most common order dice count being taken is 11, which I think is a good mix here at 850 points. You get some decent units, but at the same time you get enough. I think 11 is good. And we see that the average is 10.87. So a little under 11 being the average here. My main takeaways. When I look down at the lists, the pack, I think, is asking for people to use mechanized units, and they really are. That's what we're getting. Almost everyone here is running mechanized, but you didn't really have to. You can take a recce platoon without going in and being mechanized, but almost everyone is. Most of the Germans are running Hanomag, people like regulars or veterans in Hanomaks. Some of the Hanomaks have got recce, but that's what they're fielding here. So that's pretty cool. The pack sort of encourages this, and it is what we get. Most people just dip their toes into armor and don't go further than 1, 2, maybe 3 pieces of armor in their armored sections. I think that's a wasted opportunity. I really do. Sorry, I've got a cold. Because you have access to a full armored platoon. 5 choices. Why would you only spend enough for 1 or 2? Armor is great. So for me, that's a bit of a wasted opportunity for many people here at this tournament. On the other hand, points are being spent on gear and on officers, getting extra help for the officers so it becomes a small 3-man group, getting SMGs and LMGs and Panzerfausts and anti-tank grenades and everything for the infantry. And I'm not sure it's worth it. Yes, SMGs on some units are definitely worth it for version 3, I agree. LMGs, definitely also worth it now. But, I mean, just pouring it into every single infantry unit when you can get other stuff that can do the same, I'm on the fence about that one. We shall see what people think once we're done with this tournament. The Dakar tanks. The Dakar tanks are gone from the list builds. One person brings 2 Dakar stewards. That's it. Gone. And that's only because you can take them with Recce, that the Dakar steward. For some nations you can, right? Otherwise, there are very, very few tanks here. Very few. The most common tank, I think, is the Panzer Lux, the Panzer II, which I really get because it's a really good tank for the points. It has that autocannon, which is sweet in version 3. I like it. But the Dakar tanks, whoosh, out the door. Even though you could take stewards. So what am I seeing else about the meta? That was all about lists and the builds that I'm seeing. I'm starting to get a feel for some V3 builds so far, but not a lot. We're still very early days. The meta that we're seeing. Right, auto dice count is definitely up, right? No doubt about it. It is higher than it used to be. Autocannons and LMGs are now en vogue. They're very much the thing of the moment, right? Not so much in America here as I would have expected. I was expecting to see more, actually, of the autocannons. But the LMGs is definitely there. Even for units that used to maybe take something else, LMGs is a thing. And some people even bring them for large units of infantry, which I think is a mistake as well. But, prove me wrong. And of course, that the nations have shifted, massively shifted. They're just not the same that we used to have. So, what am I guessing? And I usually do this with tournaments where I can sort of predict based on list or players or whatever. And I don't know many of the players in this list. I know some names, but not all of them. So my guesses are just taken with a huge pinch of salt here. These are the lists that I think could potentially be the best. So we have Chad, who's playing Germans. He's got 11 points. He's got 3 Panzers with autocannons. I think that's a good combination. And then he's got mechanized veterans. Pretty much the standard, the most boiled down, and for me, the best version, order-wise and staying power-wise, of the German builds that I'm seeing here. Then there's Ian, who is bringing a Dutch list. Ian has 12 order dice. He's bringing white scout cars, which is really nice because he's got HMGs on those. And at the same time, he's got 2 Landswerk armored cars. Now, the Landswerk armored cars is not very common. You don't see it in many armies, but you do in the Danish one. Denmark had a couple of those. So you could potentially field them in Denmark as well. And the cool thing about the Landswerk is you have a hull-mounted machine gun both at the front and at the rear. So it can shoot both ways. So you can split fire quite a lot, which is kind of cool. So I like that, Ian's Netherlands list. It's a cool list. I think it could do well. Also, the HMGs are just very, very good in a low armored environment, which this is, right? Then there's Monty, who's bringing his Brits, 11 order dice, nice count. He's bringing Vengeance, which I think is good when you're not going to assault, or which no one does anymore. But so you can get rid of the pins more easily, although pins don't really matter that much anymore. He's bringing 2 Humbers, love those, a flamethrower Jeep, which may be good, may be bad, we shall see. And 2 White Scout cars, mechanized infantry with SMGs and all that. Pretty good list building there from Monty. It's what I would term a greatest hits meaning, for me at least, I don't know how the term got stuck with that, but you take 2 of everything that's good, and that is exactly what Monty's doing. Then I will throw in Sahlstrom in this pool of players I think could potentially win or do well. Sahlstrom is bringing Polish. He has 11 order dice. He is bringing a couple of lancers, some infantry in a truck, and very controversially, he's one of the few players who actually brings more than 3 tank choices. He has 5 TKS tankettes with autocannons. The TKS is awesome this version. Awesome! I think he could do really well if he knows how to play the Polish. The Lancers are not going to be very good, I know, but the TKSs are really, really good. Also, here at the end, thank you so much to Fluke Starbugger. I didn't ask, but I borrowed all your images from last year because you put them on the internet. I hope you don't mind. That's it from me, and I will see you in the next video. Good luck to anyone going to Recon Rumble this weekend. Cheers.